How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Ches, Daf 78 of Masechta Menachos. Friends, Daf 78. Two Mishnayos on today's Daf. The first one talks about the breads of the miluim. Friends, if you were paying attention. Okay. In last week's Parsha, as we all know, Parshas Tzav, we talked about the miluim. Aharon and the Bnei Aharon getting ready and inaugurated in order to be able to serve in the tabernacle. Now, if you noticed, there was a Korbin, the El HaMiluim, a very unique Korbin that was offered in the week leading up to the first of Nisan, the inauguration of the tabernacle. The week beforehand was the week of the Miluim, where Aharon and his children lived in the tabernacles. Michutz, what is it? The El Ol Moed Lo Yetu, or so, I don't know. It says something like that, like stay in the Ol Moed, in the tabernacle the whole time. And Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, was serving as the priest. Now, there's a very interesting sacrifice that was offered there. The El HaMiluim, right? It says that Aharon and Moshe and the children, they offered a cow. I believe that was a chatas, a ram for an olah, and another aisle. There was a second ram, a third Korbin, and that was the El HaMiluim. And with the El HaMiluim, there were 3 types of bread, which is unique because a Korbin Todah is 4 types of bread, an El Nazir is 2 types of bread. The El HaMiluim was 3 types of bread. So we're going to be discussing that El HaMiluim, which we mamas had the opportunity, the zchus, the privilege to be able to learn about in last week's Parshas Tzav, and the double zchus, the double privilege to also learn about it on today's daf. So we're going to be discussing the El HaMiluim, a little bit about the Minchas Chavitin, Minchas Chinuch. That is the first part of today's daf, the first Amud Be'esim of today's daf. The second Amud of today's daf, we discussed slaughtering the Todah. That slaughtering the Todah is meqadesh, it's breads. Okay. That is a halacha when it comes to Korbin Todah, that at what point are the breads, the lachme Todah, at what point do they become kadosh, holy? The answer is when the Korbin Todah, when the animal is slaughtered, at that point its breads become holy. There are questions around what if the breads do the breads need to be fully baked at that point? Do they need to be in the azara? So questions like that. And other things pertaining to the lachme Todah. Now, interestingly, also, if we're gonna, not surprisingly, but interestingly, we're also going to be discussing a little bit about matzah. It's unbelievable that mamish, the week of Pesach and the week of the Seder, we're mamish talking about halachas of matzahs. It's unbelievable. Last week we were talking about the Omer, which is coming up now, and we're talking about matzahs with the lachme Todah and the 3 types of matzah loaves that were brought with the Korbin Todah. So unbelievable times. We're mamish living through amazing times over here in Babble on Talmud. So friends, come, let's learn together Daf Ayin Ches, Daf 78 of Masechta Menachos. Friends, we begin on Daf Ayin Ches, Amud Aleph, about 10 or so lines into the Amud at the Mishnah Miluim, the El HaMiluim that we talked about in the introduction. Hayubayin Kimatzah Shabbat, along with the El HaMiluim, were 3 types of bread, 3 types of loaves. Excuse me. Those loaves corresponded to the matzah loaves of the Korbin Todah, right? The Korbin Todah had 4 types of loaves. 1 of them was chametz. The other 3 were matzah. And the El HaMiluim had 3 types of loaves. The matzah loaves the 3 types of loaves of the El HaMiluim were the 3 types of matzah loaves of the Todah. Azoy. Chalos, v'rikikin, v'revucha. The chalas and the rikikin. Chalas and rikikins are like by a minchas maifa soner. You have the chalas, you have the rikikin, they're baked. Then there is this sort of still as of yet elusive revucha. We haven't really talked much about how the revucha works. I'm really hoping we're going to. There's a lot that we still need to learn about menachos. I'm hoping that we're going to learn those things because we are running out of time day by day. We only have about 32 days left of Masechta Menachos. There are still unresolved questions that I'm hoping we're going to resolve. I'm hoping to get a little bit of a deeper understanding of these Menachos still. We've been talking so far about the Minchas HaOmer, and now Korbin Todah, but we need to still really do a deep dive into the machvas and marcheshes and all these things, and revucha as well. But I think it involved boiling water somehow. Akoponim. So the three types of matzahs for the Korbin Todah are chalas, rekikin, and revuchin, and those are the same. Also, those are the 3 loaves of the el miluim. Nizirus, when it comes to a nazir also, when he's done being a nazir, he brings a chatos, he brings an ola, and he brings a shlamim. And with that shlamim, that's the el nazir, and that's a unique shlamim because with it are 2 types of breads, chalas and rekikin. There's also the zroa b'sheila, and they kind of cook the leg. There are other unique aspects of the el nazir. Part of what's unique about it is that breads accompany it. Nizirus Aisaba Shtei Yados Kematzah Shel Todah. 2 out of the 3 types of the Todah matzahs were offered with the El Nazir. As I said, the El Nazir, there were 2 types of loaves, so clearly one, right? So, and the miluim / Todah have 3 types of chametz, of matzah loaves. So the 2 breads of the El Nazir are 2 of the 3 matzah loaves of the Todah. Chalos v'rekikin, and they are the chalos and the rekikin. Ve'ein ba revucha, not the revucha. Azoy. Nimtza asara kaben Yerushalmios she'en shisha esronos ve'odyon. Okay, and the Mishnah then just throws in a little math there at the end. We're not going to geek out on the math. We will just, a regalachas, say, as we know in terms of the Yerushalmi measures, we said that there were 5 sa'ah Yerushalmis when it came to all of the breads of the Lachmei Todah. We had said that a sa'ah is 6 kavs, so 5 sa'ah Yerushalmis times 6 kavs is 30 kavs. Okay, so basically all of the Lachmei Todah, when we're talking about the Yerushalmi measures, we're talking about 30 kavs. Divide that in half, get rid of half of them because those are for the chametz loaves. We're left with 15 for the 3 types of matzahs. Each type of matzah, therefore, had 5 kavs of flour. And therefore, if we're talking about only 2 of the 3 types of matzah loaves, so we're talking about 5 times 2, 10 kavs, right? Which is what we just said over here. Asara kaben Yerushalmios, 10 Yerushalmi kavs. I hope that was clear. And similarly, shehein sheish esronos ve'odyan, and 6 and a bit esronim when we're talking about the midbarios ones, 6 2/3 to be exact, because when we're talking about the midbarios, those were 6 sa'ah, which are 2 ephahs. Each ephah is 10 isarons, so we're talking about 20 esronim. Get rid of 10 of them because those are for the chametz ones. We're not interested in those. 10 esronim for the matzahs, divided by 3 for the 3 types of matzahs. That's 3 1/3. And we're using 2 of the 3 types of matzahs. 3 1/3 times 2 is 6 2/3. Okay, so 6 2/3 isarons if we're talking about the midbarios. Okay, a little bit of math there at the end just for some fun, but don't worry too much about it. If you wanna, if you're saying, oh wow, I need to drink a little more coffee, I'll come back to the math later. Come back to the math later. It's fine. You'll do just fine on the rest of the daf. I'm going to drink a little bit of tea and we'll go weiter. Azoy. Okay. How do we know that by the El Hamiluim? How do we know that by the El Hamiluim there were those 3 types of bread, and that they are the chalas, rekikin, and Revuchin. The pasuk says Umisala Matzis. This is Mamash pasuk from last week's parsha, Parshas Tzav. In the context of the El HaMiluim, it says Umisala Matzis Asher Lifnei Hashem Lokach Chala Matzah Achas. Okay, v'chalas lechem shemen achas, v'rokik echad. So bishlam chalas rokik. Okay, so the chalas, right, when it says chalas matzah echas, okay, so that's the chala like we have by the Todah. And when it says rokik, that's the rokik like we have by the Todah. Shemen, my ninu, what is the shemen? Lav revucha, is it not the revucha? So it must be that we have the chalas, the rekikin, and the revuchin. Azoy, maskif lo Avya ema anta de mishcha. Azoy. Rav Avya says maybe it's anta de mishcha. What's anta de mishcha? I don't really know. Rashi gives a few options. Some kind of oil thing maybe. I don't really know. Some kind of oil thing maybe. So some kind of like oil that like maybe is like you like. I don't know. It's maybe me making like what was like a cake or something. That I don't. What was the second? Under the Mishra, shemen, karush, congealed oil, agul that's round, kimo lechem, like like a bread, vainu lechem. Okay, that's right. Well, okay, maybe it's that. But Ella kedur of Nachman bar Rav Chizda mishmei de Rav Tavla. Rather, it's like Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda named Rav Tavla. Now, Chaver, this is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit hard for me with my little fingers to put my finger on it. Quite, it's a little tricky. I don't know. I went last night. I went to sell my chametz. Last night I went to sell chametz. I went at 7 o'clock, about 7:05 p.m. I went to sell my chametz right across the street. I was hoping it would take 10 minutes. So I went there and I said, "Hey, is there anybody? I want to sell my chametz. There's a shul right across the street from my house. But like when I say right across the street, I mean literally across the street. On one side of my house are the shmendriks in the park. On the other side, mamish, there's like a tiny little street, like literally opposite my window. Like so opposite my window that like last year I heard Parshas Zachor. I didn't like Parshas Zachor Mida Oraisa. I didn't even leave my house to hear Parshas Zachor. I just opened my windows and heard Parshas Zachor. Like that's how close it is to my house. That wasn't this year. I think it was last year or the year before. Yeah. This year I went to shul, I think. This year Parshas Zachor, right? Pashat Mam is Zachor is Asher Asar Lecha Amalek. And they're pashat from Iran. They're pashat bombing us. Mamish, the sirens were going off during Parshat Zachor this year. Akoponim. So I went to the shul there, and I said, is there somebody selling chametz? Because it's always a little bit elusive. I always have to go a few times. It's like the Misrad HaPnim. The thing is that this is right across the street from my house. It's less of an investment. Akoponim. So I asked if somebody's selling chametz. They said, yeah, I'll be here in 5 minutes. In the meantime, there was a Daf Yomi share going on, and I don't, I never go and listen to somebody else's Daf Yomi share, just because it doesn't happen. And anyways, I was waiting for so I had my Gemara with me, obviously, so I was waiting for the guy to get there in quote unquote 5 minutes. Anyways, so I was listening to Daf Yomi share. Obviously, I didn't end up selling my chametz until after the shir and after Mariv, and then that's whatever it was. I ended up staying for the whole shir, not because I wanted to, but just because the guy wasn't, whatever. Anyways, so the point I'm making is that the Maggid shir there of the Daf Yomi shir right across from my house, he's a big Talmud Chacham. So I bet the point I'm making is he probably knows what's going on in this Gemara. I don't. I know somewhere be'erech what's going on in the Gemara. I bet if he's giving the shir, he would probably just explain it and would be like, oh wow, yeah, he's a big Talmud Chacham. It makes sense. On me, on the other hand, I'm like, well, there's about 1 million things going on in this pasuk. Somewhere in there is what we're looking for. Okay. It's a trade-off. You can go to his shir and listen to a shir from a Talmud Chacham. Sounds like a good idea. Or you can listen to a shir from a Shmendrik. whatever you're into. So where were we? Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda mishmei de Rav Tavla. It's a little bit tricky. Why is it tricky? Because it's talking. Here, let's read the pasuk for a second. Okay, this is a pasuk in the context of Minchas Chavitin. Why is it tricky to put my finger on it? Because this pasuk in Minchas Chavitin is talking about 1,000 different things. Just like we talked about the Beis Hadeshin the other day, it could be 1,000 different things. We're going to talk about the Beis Pagi in a few minutes, which also is hard to put your finger on. We just talked about this Ante de Mishcha, which is hard to put your finger on. The Minchas Chavit, there's a lot of things that are just hard to nail down exactly. Again, if you're a Talmud Chacham, you probably know exactly what's going on. But for me, there's 1,000 things going on. Why are there 1,000 things going on? Well, this pasuk by Minchas Chavitin is talking about the Minchas Chavitin, which is the mincha that the Kohen Gadol would offer every single day. But it's also the Korbin Mincha Biyom Himashach also, right? It's also a Korbin Mincha that the Kohen Gadol offers on the day that he becomes Kohen Gadol. It's also the Kohen that every single Kohen Hedjit on the first day that they come to the Beis HaMikdash to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, they also offer it, and in that case it's called the Minchas Chinuch. It's also related to the miluim that we're talking about in the El miluim, which is a completely different Korbin, but it shares in common the fact that this is kind of part of the inauguration of the Kohen. So there's about 1,000 different things going on in this pasuk, and from somewhere in this pasuk, we're going to be learning, at least the way I understand it, that there were revuchas when it came to the El miluim. Let's talk about the Minchas Chavitin for a second, okay? So we have these psukim in Parshas Tzav, in last week's parsha, that talk about the Minchas Chavitin, okay? Now, as I said a minute ago, kind of quickly, I want to just talk about this for a second. What was the Minchas Chavitin? And it's all learned from this pasuk. So basically, what are all the things that we learned from these psukim that teach us about the Minchas Chavitin and all of the other things that it teaches in this pasuk? So, what's the Minchas Chavitin? As I think we know, the Minchas Chavitin was a Korbin Mincha that was offered every single day by the Kohen Gadol. Now, additionally, the Minchas Chavitin was also, in a different context, a Minchas Chinuch, which means that a Kohen Hedjit, on the first day that he would show up in the Beis HaMikdash, and for his first time doing Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, would also offer this Korbin. One time, he would offer it one time, on the first day that he works in the Beis HaMikdash, and that was called the Minchas Chinuch. It was the inaugural Korbin Mincha that it's the same, my understanding is the same exact Korbin, even to the extent, I assume, I was trying to find, I didn't see any difference. I imagine also it's offered half in the morning, half in the afternoon. I imagine it's the same exact Korbin, and the Kohen Gadol offers this type of Korbin every single day. A Kohen Hedjit offers this once, the first day that he shows up at the Avodah, to work in the Beis HaMikdash. Interestingly, a Kohen Gadol also, as we're going to see in a few minutes, when he becomes Kohen Gadol, the first day that he's Kohen Gadol, he also offers it as his Minchas Chinuch for now being the Kohen Gadol, which means that on the day that a Kohen Gadol becomes Kohen Gadol, he brings this Korbin twice. Once as his Minchas Chinuch, once as now he's the Kohen Gadol, so he brings this just like a Kohen Hedjit on the first day that he does Avodah as a Kohen Hedjit, he brings a Minchas Chinuch. So a Kohen Gadol, the first day as the Kohen Gadol, also brings this Korbin as is sort of Minchas Chinuch. But additionally, now that he's the Kohen Gadol, he'll also bring it as a Minchas Chavitin, the daily Korbin of the Kohen Gadol, so he'll bring two on that day. We're actually going to see in a few minutes that there could be a situation where he can even bring three. Now, in addition, because this is a Korbin that is offered as sort of an inaugural type of Korbin, the Minchas Chinuch of the Kohen Hedjit, of a Kohen Gadol, it can also teach us about the El HaMiluim, which was a one-time thing that happened in the week leading up to the inauguration of the Mishkan, the Korbin that we're talking about, the three types of bread that we're trying to figure out what this third type of bread is. We can learn about the third type of bread from the Minchas Chavitin, which was also a type of inaugural type of Korbin. Now, when I said that this pasuk is talking about a million things, that was kind of what I was getting at. That there's like a lot of different related things all in this sugya, and I think from this sugya essentially emerges the information that we are looking for. I hope that there's. I think that this kind of makes sense, right? Yeah, I mean, I think there's sense in what I'm saying. I think it makes sense, but there's just like a lot of, it's like something emerging from a lot of stuff. I feel like the Talmud Chacham across the street who's going to be teaching this, I feel like he's just going to do it very quickly and make it very, very clear. But what about all the complexity? There's a lot of complexity. I guess when you're a big Talmud Chacham, you just like don't have to deal with complexity. I don't know. I have to deal with complexity. I don't know. Maybe it's just different styles. I don't know if one's right or wrong. I don't know that one's right or wrong. I don't think that I'm wrong. And he's definitely right. No, I think it's just a different thing. I think it's just a different style. Anyways, no, because if I thought I was wrong and I didn't know what I was talking about, if I felt I didn't know what I was talking about, that's one thing. My relationship, my approach towards this particular sugya is that it's confusing. There are things in the Gemara that are confusing, and that some things are clear, some things are not, and the Gemara is emerging from this kind of complex scenario. That's how I understand it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let's go weiter. Okay, where are we? So Ela kedudarsh of Nachman bar Rav Chizda mishmei de Reb Tavla ze Korbin aharon uvanav asher akrivu laHashem biyom mashachoso. This is the Korbin, the minchas chavitin. The minchas chavitin that the Kohen Gadol offered every single day is also the Korbin that Aharon and his children offered when they become Kohen Gadol or become a Kohen Hedjit. V'chimad lamanu levanav miyom himashcho. What are we learning about his children, about Kohen Hedjits, from the inauguration of Aharon? We are comparing the chinuch, the inauguration of Kohen Hedjits, to the essentially to the inauguration of Aharon a Kohen, and the Kohen that he and the Korbin that he would offer. Ma'imashcho revucha, and just like Aharon a Kohen. Well, what is the Ksav Yad of Rashi say? So Rashi in the Ksav Yad parish, it's a little, the regular I heard him last night. He was calling it the Rashi Nidpos, which is the Rashi at the top. So there it was a little bit more confusing. The Ksav Yad was a little bit clearer. Anyways, I think that the Himashcho is talking about his Minchas Chavitin. So Kilu, what are we learning about a Kohen Hedjit from the Minchas Chavitin of a Kohen Gadol? My Mashcho Revucha, just like by the Minchas Chavitin, we're talking about Revucha, because the pasuk says, I think it says, it says more beches, that it's this Revucha. It's, I think, using the boiling water or something. So af chinucha Revucha. So also the Minchas Chinuch of a Kohen Hedjit used Revucha. Well, it was Revucha, and therefore, since we're learning out the Minchas Chinuch of a Kohen Hedjit from the Minchas Chavitin of a Kohen Gadol, and also it was also a Korbin that the Kohen Gadol would offer on his inauguration, and also we can relate to that about the miluim of the week leading up to the inauguration of the Mishkan, that when it came to the El HaMiluim, and we're trying to figure out what is this third type of loaf of matzah, it is a revucha, just like it is by the Minchas Chavitin / Minchas Chinuch. There's revucha there. So also by the El HaMiluim, there would be that third type of bread is a revucha. Wow. Okay, fine. Givaldi, yeah. Okay, as I said, there was kind of a lot going on there. I don't know. Anyways, I think it emerged from the Minchas Chavitin that the third type of bread is a revucha. Omar Rav Chizda, says Rav Chizda, Kohen Gadol ha'makriv la'avoda, ha'miskariv la'avoda. So Kohen Gadol, when he becomes Kohen Gadol, tzarich shtei esronos ha'efa, he has to bring 2 Minchas Chavitins, as we were talking about a few minutes ago. Achas li mashcho, one as a Minchas Chavitin, because he's the Kohen Gadol, he has to offer a Minchas Chavitin every day. V'achas l'chinucha, but also now that he's newly appointed as the Kohen Gadol, he's going to also be bringing this Korbin as well as his Minchas Chinuch. So on the day that a Kohen Gadol becomes Kohen Gadol, he brings the same type of Korban twice. One as a type of Minchas Chinuch, and the other as his daily Minchas Chavitin as the Kohen Gadol. Rav Ashi, Omar says, Rav Ashi Shalosh, that there could, he offers 3 of these korbanos. For lo plige, they don't argue. It depends on the context. Had avad avoda kshu kohen hedjit, had lo avad avoda kshu kohen hedjit. Very interesting answer, which is that apparently it sounds like a bit of a chiddush, but you could have theoretically a kohen gadol who actually never served in the Beis Hamikdash before. I don't know. It sounds a little crazy, but you could theoretically have a kohen gadol. I mean, if you think about it, when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, b'meir v'yameinu amen, the first Kohen Gadol right now, unless it's like a throwback to Aaron or Kohen or something, I don't know, but it could very well be that the first Kohen Gadol has never worked in the Beis Hamikdash before, so he'll have to offer 3 of these Minchas Chavitins. One, because as a Kohen Hedjit, he's never worked in the Beis Hamikdash before, so you have one Minchas Chinuch as he's simply just like every Kohen Hedget needs to offer a Minchas Chinuch. Another one as a Minchas Chinuch, because now he's the Kohen Gadol, and a third one as the Minchas Chavitin. So when Rav Ashi says that that he offers this Korbin 3 times, it's just talking about a situation where you have a Kohen Gadol who's never actually worked in the Beis HaMikdash before, so in that case, he'll have to offer 3 of these Menachos. Assuming that the Kohen Gadol has worked in the Beis HaMikdash, he went up the ranks from being a Kohen Hedget to now being a Kohen Gadol, so he'll bring 2 of these Korbanos, one as now he is the Kohen Gadol, and a second one as his Minchas Chavitin that he is going to be offering every day from here on out. Says the Gemara, Nazirus Isa ba shtei yodis ki matzah shebetodah. We said that the El Nazir was brought with 2 types of matzah loaves, 2 of the 3 of the Todah. The rabbis taught shlamov. It says by a Korbin Todah, shlamov, plural, l'rabbis, shalmei nazir, to include the shalmei nazir, the El Nazir, la'aseres kabin Yerushalmios, for the 10 kavs Yerushalmios, i.e. for 2 of the 3 loaves of types of matzah loaves, v'lerevius shemen, and a revius of shemen, as we've discussed in the past. Normally, when it comes to a regular minchas nedava, so by default we're talking about 1 isaron of flour and 1 log of oil by regular minchas nedava. What's interesting about the Korbin Todah is that there are 20 isarons of flour, 20 times the amount of flour, and yet half the amount of oil, half a log of oil. Now, when it comes to the Todah, there are, of course, 4 types of bread. There's the chametz bread. The chametz bread doesn't have any oil. Now, in terms of the matzah breads, the chalas and the half a log of oil is divided in half. A half a log divided in half is a quarter of a log, a revius. So 1 revius was for the chalas and the rekikin, and the other revius was for the revucha. So the El Nazir has 2 types of breads, chalas and rekikin. So those chalas and rekikin get 1/4 of a log of oil, just like the chalas and rekikin by a Todah have 1/4 of a log of oil. So Tanu Rabbanan Shlamav L'Rabbo Shalmei Nazir La'aseres Kabin Yerushalmios, that there are 2 types of the matzahs, of the Todah matzahs, V'la'revius shemen, and for those 2 types of matzahs, for the chalas and rekikin, there are a revius of oil, just like by the Korbin Todah, the chalas and rekikin have a revius of oil also for the Nazir. Yachol lechol mashomer binyan. Is it possible that shlamov should include entirely, right, for all 3 loaves of matzahs? Talmud lomar matzos. It says matzahs. My Talmud, what does that mean? It says matzahs. Rav Papa says Rav Papa dover shenemar bo matzahs lafuke revucha lo nemar bo matzahs. That meaning, what is this? Which pasuk is this? Okay, by a Nazir it says matzahs, and therefore what it's saying is that it's only including the types of matzahs where it says matzahs. If you look by Korbin Todah, it says V'kriv al zevach todas chalos matzos, so the chalos beluz b'Hashem, v'erkike matzos mishum b'Hashem. The v'solos murbeches chalos beluz b'Hashem doesn't say matzos by the revuchin. So only the types of matzahs where it says matzah, the chalas and the rekikin, that is what there is by the El Nazir. To be Bishmal Tana, it was taught especially by Bishmal, matzahs klal, by the El Nazir, it says matzos, which is a klal, chalos v'rekikin prat, klalu frat, and b'chlal al-mashe b'frat. When you have a general statement followed by a specific statement, it is limited to only the specific statement. So you have matzahs, and then you have chalas and rekikin. We're only talking about the chalas and rekikin. Chalas v'rekikin in midei achrina lo, only the chalas and rekikin, nothing else. Givaldig. Okay, that was the first Amud and the first Mishnah of today's Daf. Now we are going to be discussing slaughtering the Korbin Todah and how that relates to all of the breads, how cooked they are, how this they are, and how that they are. Says the Mishnah, Hashoichet es ha-Todah, somebody who slaughters a Korbin Todah, lifnim, inside the Azara, as it should be slaughtered, V'lach machutz le'choma. However, the breads of the Korbin Todah are not in the Azara. Where are they? Well, they're outside of the wall. Which wall? Okay, we'll get there. But they're outside of the wall. Outside of the wall. Certainly not in the Azara, that to say the very least. Now, so you're slaughtering the Todah, and the breads are not there. Lo kidesh alechem. So lo kadesh alechem. So the breads are not kadosh. They don't become kadosh. That's a problem. I don't know if there's a way to fix that. I don't know. Shalchato ad shelo karmu. You skip the next word, betoner. If you slaughter the Korbin Todah and the breads are not yet fully baked. Vafilu karmu kulan chutz mechamen, even if they are 39 of them are fully baked, but one is not, or at least significant enoughly baked, but one of them is not. Lo kadesh alechem. No, it's all or none. So the lechems are not, the breads are not kadosh. Okay, so we just said two things in this Mishnah. Thing number one is that when slaughtering the Korbin Todah, the breads have to be in the right place that they need to be. We're going to see what that right place is. If they're outside of wherever that place is, then they are not kadosh. And similarly, they need to be kosherly baked in order for them to be kadosh as well. If even one of the 40 breads is not baked enough, the breads are not kadosh. Says the Gemara, my chutz l'choma. Okay, what does it mean that if the breads are outside of the wall? What wall are we talking about? That they have to be within this wall, and if they are outside of that wall, then they do not become kadosh. Rabbi Yochanan Amar chutz l'chomas beis pagi. Rabbi Yochanan says we're talking about the chomas beis pagi. What's chomas beis pagi? I don't know. Rashi gives two possibilities. Rashi nidpos, the Rashi at the top of the page, says it is talking about the wall of Harabayis. It's talking about the wall of Harabayis. It needs to be on Harabayis. It can't be, it can't be anywhere else in Yerushalayim, right? Kache may be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim, but for this, the breads it can't just be anywhere in Yerushalayim. They have to be on Harabayis. They don't have to be in the Azar, but they do have to be on the Temple Mount. Rashi in the Ksav Yad, also Rashi in Masechta Pesachim, I think in other places as well, says that it's talking about the walls of Yerushalayim. That as long as it's in Yerushalayim, it's a kachim kachim, right? It can be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim. As long as the breads are anywhere in Yerushalayim, so then that is acceptable. So anyway, so it's a question exactly what this beis pagi is. But okay, so let's assume like the majority opinion that it's talking about it has to be within Yerushalayim. Okay, so if it's outside of Yerushalayim, when the Korbin Todah is slaughtered, all the breads are outside of Yerushalayim, so that's geferlich, it's a problem. However, as long as they're in Yerushalayim, then it's kosher. Rish Lakish, however, disagrees with the Yochanan, and he says no, the mamish have to be in the Azar. Poshit. It says Rish Lakish, the Lachmei Todah, right? You're slaughtering the Korbin Todah in the Azar. The Lachmei Todah need to be there as well in the Azar. If they're outside of the Azar, geferlich, it's going to be a problem. Rish Lakish, that when it says Rish Lakish in explaining his rationale, because the pasuk says, right, by Korbin Todah im al Todah yakrivenu ve'kriv al zevach hatodah chalos, etc., etc., etc. It says that all of these breads need to be al hatodah, on the Todah, and on means next to, right in the vicinity, right next to the Todah. So when slaughtering the Todah in the animal in the Azar, so the breads need to be right there. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan chutz l'chomas beis pagi. If it's outside of Yerushalayim, it's a problem. But so long as it's in Yerushalayim, then it's fine. It's kosher. Aval chutz la'azara kadosh. Whoa! Did I just hear a boom? You hear booms all the time. Even if it's not your boom, you hear booms all the time. You become like a boom kind of connoisseur. It's unbelievable. You become a boom connoisseur. Depending on how intense the boom is, you can kind of get a feel for how far it is. The more you experience these things, the more you kind of get a feel for them. Akoponim. So aval chutz la'azara kadosh, but outside of the Azara, according to Rabbi Yochanan, is fine as long as it's in Yerushalayim. B'lo al b'samach, we don't need to be mamish right next to the animal. Now, one second. Why are Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish arguing about this when it comes to the lachmei todah? They already argue about it when it comes to slaughtering the Korbin Pesach. This that we learn in the Mishnah in Masechta Pesach Mashoichet Pesach ala chometz. If a person slaughters a Korbin Pesach and he still has chometz, he didn't go to sell his chometz the day before. He still has chometz. He still has his whiskey collection. He didn't sell it. Over below saise, he's in violation of mitzvahs lo saise of lo sizbach al chometz dam zivchi. Don't be slaughtering the Korbin Pesach when you still have chometz. Rabbi Yehuda Omer af atomid. Rabbi Yehuda says even if the Korbin, right, if somebody goes to slaughter the kohen or whatever goes to slaughter the tamid shel beinu abayim and he has chometz, so also that, so he's over on alav. V'amar Rish Lakish says Rish Lakish la'olam enu chayiv ad sheyei o l'shoichet o l'zarik o l'echem b'nei chabura imo ba'azar. Says Rish Lakish that when we say that if somebody slaughters the Korbin Pesach and they have chometz, so then they're over on a lav of lo sizbach al chometz dam zivchi. Is that the pasuk? Lo sizbach. Is that what it is? Wait, what does Rashi say? I think it's lo tizbach al chometz dam zivchi, right? Something like that. Akoponim. So Rish Lakish says it means you're in violation of slaughtering the Korbin Pesach and having chometz if the chometz is mamish in your pocket with you in the azar. But if it's not mamish with you, so we're not talking about that, because al means mamish with you. Rabbi Yochanan Omer says Rabbi Yochanan af al pi she'ein imo ba'azar, even if the chometz is not mamish on him and with him in the azar, but he has chometz in his ownership, that would be significant. So we see the same machlokas twice, right? We see over here by the lachmei todah that Rish Lakish says the lachmei todah after mamish be in the azara. Rabbi Yochanan says it could be anywhere in Yerushalayim, and also by chometz on Pesach, Rish Lakish is saying they're only in violation of lo sizbach chometz dam zivchi if the chometz is mamish with you in the azara, and that was Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says even if it's not mamish with you in the azara. So we see that they already have this machlokas. Why do we need a machlokas twice? Tzricha, we need it twice. The itmar be hahi. If we only had the scenario of chometz, that is where Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't mamish have to be with you, because so long as you own chometz, so as long, right, anywhere where it is asur, whether it's with you, whether it's not, it's chometz in your possession. It's going to be asur wherever it is. So therefore, in that case, Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't have to be with you in the azara. Aval miqadesh lechem, but in terms of being miqadesh the lechem for a Korbin Todah, maybe he agrees with Rish Lakish there. That it would have to be with him in the azara when it comes to the lachmei todah. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan would say that. So therefore, we need also the scenario about the lachmei todah to say that even there, Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't have to be in the azara; it could be anywhere in Yerushalayim. The itmar beha, and if we would only have the scenario of the lachmei todah beha ka'am Rish Lakish, that is where Rish Lakish says that a mamish needs to be in the azar. Aval b'hach, when it comes to chametz, I would say, moded that Rabbi Yochanan, that he agrees with Rabbi Yochanan, that since chametz is also wherever it is, even if the chametz is not with you in the azar, you would still be in violation of lo sizbach al chametz dam zivchi tzricha. Therefore, we need both scenarios. Tani takavasid Rabbi Yochanan, we talk of a brisa in support of Rabbi Yochanan. Shoichet is atoda lifnim v'lach machutz the chametz beis pagi. If somebody slaughters the todah in the azar, but the breads are beyond chometz beis pagi lokidesh alechem, so then the bread is not kadosh. So we see that the defining location is beis pagi. Beyond beis pagi, the breads are not kadosh. Within Yerushalayim, before beis pagi, before exiting past beis pagi, if it's in Yerushalayim, so then the breads are kadosh. That is like the distinction of Reb Yochanan. I'm going to chap a shtickle tea and we will continue. Azoy. Says the Gemara, Shachata ad shelo karmu paneh b'tanu. If the Mishnah had said that if the Korbin Todah was slaughtered and the bread had not yet been sufficiently baked. No, and immediately how do we notice this on Rabbanan? The Rabbi said, al chalos lechem chometz, Yaakov korban al zevach. So, Melamed teaches ena lechem kadosh elim kein karmu paneh b'tanu, that they have to be, right, al chalos, they have to be bread, they have to be properly baked. Only if the breads are properly baked, so then it's a proper shechita of the Korbin Todah. You have to slaughter the Korbin Todah when you have breads that are properly baked. Right? Al chalos lechem chometz. You have to have properly baked bread. Yaakov korbano al zevach melamed she'ein alechem kadosh ela b'shchitas azevach. Okay, right? Yaakov korbano al zevach, that the bread becomes kadosh with the shchitas azevach, with the slaughtering of the sacrifice. Zevach todas melamed she'ein shochat and shelo lishman lo kidesh alechem. It says zevach todas, davka Korbin Todah, that in order for the bread to be kadosh, the Korbin Todah needs to be slaughtered lishma as a Korbin Todah. If it's slaughtered not as a Korbin Todah, well then the breads do not become kadosh. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught yotzin b'matzah no. You can be yotze with matzah and leil aseder. You can be yotze with matzah that is raw. What does raw mean? So I think raw usually when we talk about no in the context of like korbanos and stuff, I don't think that we're talking about literally raw, like completely raw. I think it usually means undercooked. Now, yotzin b'matzah no. You can be yotze with matzah that is not fully baked. Okay, we'll see what that means. With matzah asuya be'ilpus, or even a matzah that's somehow pan made could be okay. My matzah no. What is this matzah that is not fully cooked and yet fully baked, and yet you can be yotze with it? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, kol sheporsa ve'ein chutin nimshachin imeno. If you break it in half and you don't have doughy strands that are pulling, if it's cooked enough, so it might not be maybe well done or whatever, but it's baked enough that if you break it in half, it cracks in half. There's no pull. So then that is sufficiently baked. Omar Rava says Rava v'chein le'inyan lachmei Todah, and says Rava, and the same halacha applies to lachmei Todah. So long as it's baked enough that when you break it in half, there's no pull, so then it's kosher. Also, it's considered baked sufficiently for the lachmei Todah. Pshita, this should be obvious. Both are lechem. So it would make sense that the same halachas in terms of baking would apply to both the lachmei Todah and the lechem oni, the matzahs that we're going to enjoy on Leil HaSeder, together with 4 cups of wine. I may have thought we had learned in the Mishnah either yesterday or the day before that the Torah says, right, that you'll take echod, you'll take one of the breads for one of the types of loaves for truma. Anyways, it has to be whole. It says you can't take a shtickle, a piece. So v'ha command the prisadamya. Now these loaves that are not fully baked, they're baked enough but not fully baked, they're kind of brittle and they can fall apart. So I might thought that maybe it's not considered whole, and one kamash mila, no. So long as it's sufficiently baked that there's no pull when it breaks, that's enough, even if it might be a little brittle. Idmar, we stated Todah sheshochata al shmonim chalis, a Korbin Todah that was slaughtered not with 40 breads but with 80 breads. Chizkiya Amar Kidshu Arboim mitoch shmonim, Kadshu Arboim mitoch shmonim, says Chizkiya 40 of the 80 are kadosh, all good. Rabbi Yochanan Amar lo Kadshu Arboim mitoch shmonim. Rabbi Yochanan says you brought 80. That's bad. You need 40. No good. Amar Reb Zera says, Reb Zera, akol modim. Everybody agrees. Heichada Omar, if he had said likachu arboyim mitoch shmonim, that I know I'm bringing 80, but only 40 of them are actually going to be kadosh. Well, then kachu. Givald. So that works. If he explicitly says that I know I have 80, but only 4 of them are actually part of the Todah, well then only 40 of them are part of the Todah, and only 40 of them are part of the Todah. All good. Al yikadru arboim ela im kein yikadru shmonim, and if he says that 40 of them should only be kadosh if all 80 of them are kadosh. Well, okay, lo kachu, obviously then it doesn't work because 80 are not okay, too much. Ki plige, the machlokes is bistama, if he doesn't say what his intentions are. So now what happens? He brought 80. Do we say 40 are acceptable? Do we say he's intending to bring all 80? What's going on? Mar savar lachar yusun kamechav. Chizkiah says, look, he's bringing it as a backup. Let's say something happens to 40 of them. Nishgefelach, he's got another 40. So he knows that Korbin Todah is for 40 breads. He's just bringing double just in case. Okay, I get it. Okay, he's coming to the Beis HaMikdash, whatever, he doesn't want anything to happen. Now he's got to start all over again. So he brings twice as much as he needs. If anything happens to these 40, he's got another 40, all good. That's what Chizkiah says. He's bringing 80, but his intention is for 40. The others are just a backup. Marsavar, the Korbin Gadol Kamechavin, whereas Rabbi Yochanan says, no. If he's bringing 80, he wants to bring a big Korbin, 80 breads. And that is a problem. Abaye Omer says, Abaye, skip the next 5-8 words or something. B'chlisharis mikachin shalomidas kumiflagi. The machlekes is if klesharis, in this case the knife of the shchita, is going to be mekadesh the breads, specifically the correct amount of breads, shalomidas, even if you don't have specific intention, right? We're saying that he's not saying explicitly that I only have intention for 40. Yes, he's just slaughtering the Korbin Todah. Then he's got 80 breads there. So the question is, the klisharis, which in this case is the knife, when it's doing the shchita, is it going to be mekadesh the correct amount of breads, 40 breads, even without any specific intention for that to happen? So Marsavar klisharis mikaj and shlomidas. Chizkiah says yes, that the slaughtering of the Korbin with the knife, which is a klisharis, even without any specific intention for 40, nonetheless will have the effect of being mekadesh 40 of the 80 breads. Umar Savar klisharis ein mekadesh shlomidas, whereas Rabbi Yochanan says no, it's not just magically going to be mekadesh 40 of the 80 breads. Or Papa Omar tuchuli ama klisharis mekadesh shlomidas. Or Papa says now everyone agrees that klesharis mikachin shelo midas. Ve'acha besakin komiflage. Here the machlekes revolves around the actual knife, which we're saying is the klesharis. Ma'asor besakin mikadeshes kichlisharis. One opinion is that the knife works as a klesharis, and we're saying that everyone agrees klisharis mikachin shelo midas. And since the knife is a klisharis, it's mekadesh shelo midas. It's mekadesh 40 of the loaves. That is Chizkiah's opinion. U'ma'asor v'sakin came the leisle toch in mekadeshes kichlisharis. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says, since the knife doesn't have a base kibul, doesn't have an inside to it, it's straight, so therefore it's not treated like a regular klisharis, and it is not going to be mekadesh 40 of the breads. Those who say Reb Papa Omar, that Reb Papa says the chuli ama klesharis ein mekadeshin ela midas. There are those who say Reb Papa is saying that everyone agrees that a klesharis is only going to be mekadesh with the explicit intention, and therefore in this case, since there's no explicit intention for 40, so then it should not work. However, the Acha besakin kamiflage, they're specifically arguing about the knife. Marsaver sakin alima miklesharis dafagav deleis le toch mikadsha, that Chizkiah says that the knife is unique in that it's kind of stronger than all of the other klisharis, because there's a chiddush by the knife, which is that even though it doesn't have a base kibul, that even though it doesn't have an inside to it, it's still able to be mekadesh, and therefore since it has this kind of unique and kind of stronger aspect to it, that it can be mekadesh even without an inside to it, it can even be mekadesh shelo midas, something that a standard klesharis would be unable to do. Ma'asaver sakin lo alima le klesharis. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says, the knife isn't any more special or powerful, so to speak, than any other klesharis, and therefore, according to this view, it would not be mekadesh shelo midas, i.e., you're bringing 80 breads, and that's going to be a problem. Friends, that was Daf Ayin Ches, Daf 78 of Masechta Menachos. On Daf 78 of Masechta Menachos, we learned about the breads for the miluim. We talked about the el miluim, which we learned about in Parshas Tzav, the special ram, shlamim ram that was Moshe and Aharon and his children brought as part of the miluim, the week running up to the Chanukas ha-Mishkan. And there was a special ram that was brought with 3 breads, which is unique because otherwise we don't have this scenario of 3 breads being offered with a Korbin. The Todah is 4, the El Nazir is 2. And we kind of had this limud about what was that third bread. There's challahs, there are kikins. What's the third one? We said it's revuchin. We essentially learned that out from the minchas chavitin / minchas chinuch, where the mincha is revuchin, and I think that's boiling water. So therefore, also by the el miluim, there was revuchin there as well. We also learned a little bit about the minchas chavitin, which is also the minchas chinuch, that a Kohen Hedget offers on the first day that he does service in the temple. He offers this minchas chinuch. A Kohen Gadol offers it on the first day that he becomes Kohen Gadol, as well as every single day as the minchas chavitin. Now, we then discussed slaughtering the Todah is meqadesh. It's breads that the breads need to be, there's machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish of where they need to be exactly. Rish Lakish says the breads need to be in the azara with the Korbin Todah when the Korbin Todah is being slaughtered. Rabbi Yochanan says that they just have to be within base pagi. Their base pagi can either be with anhara bias, but I think the more broadly used explanation is within Yerushalayim. It says according to Rabbi Yochanan that they have to be within Yerushalayim. Interestingly, we also had relationships with the Korbin Pesach. Of course, this week is Pesach. We said, right, lo sizbach al chometz dam zivchi. When you slaughter the Korbin Pesach, you can't have any chometz at that time either. There was a similar machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish as well, that where that chometz must be. Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish says you're only in violation if the chometz is with you in the azara, whereas Rabbi Yochanan says that was Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says if it's anywhere in your possession. We also discussed from the Mishnah that when the Korbin Todah is slaughtered, all of the breads must be sufficiently baked at that time. If even one of them is not sufficiently baked at that time, so then they do not become kadosh. Interestingly, as part of that, it related to baking matzahs that the minimum amount of baking for a Korbin Todah and for matzahs are the same, which is that they have to be sufficiently baked that there's no pull when the matzah is broken in half. And then we saw a machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. No, Rabbi Yochanan and Chizkiah, if somebody brings 80 breads for his lachmei Todah, Chizkiah says 40 of them are kadosh. We ignored the other 40. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, this is a problem. We gave different ukimtas about where they do and they don't argue. Friends, that was Daf Ayin Ches, Daf 78 of Masechta Menachos. Hope you enjoyed it very much. Have a great day. Peace.